What I'm going to do here, I'm going to look up what the rounds are, because I'm not wasting my time finding out. I think that's a way to save me some time. Rulers of the outer... Oh, it's the summons. It's the bloody summons. Wait, there's 5 rounds in this one? Wait a minute.
We can still meet from time to time.
So this is like what we did in the Gilgamesh fight, but probably... But that was that already like dynamic difficulty? I'm just wondering if I'm already more prepared for this than I think, because this is kind of what I did in the Gilgamesh one, but we have to do them back to back. Let's have a look. 5 rounds, okay. I just need to see the combinations. So, round 1 is Phoenix and Kujata. That's a duo that we've got to. Then it's Titan, Bahamut, Arisen. We've done that before. Odin, Alexander. We barely managed to do that. Then Gilgamesh. And then we have something special. So. We'll start with this guy. While the attention's on someone else, we'll just... I think especially for these fights, I really need to just make sure I have ATB at all times for everyone. Alright, let's go to ice. Yeah, largely don't have to think about much outside of just doing damage. Oh great, she already wasted a bunch of time. Wow, it took like 20 seconds to get back in the fight here. It always just runs out a little bit too fast. But yeah, so far so good. That one change of material made everything way better. And again, we're getting it done without needing any MP, which is important. We need it for the remaining rounds. Alright. Now, Rebirth Flame may be non-elemental, we're about to find out. It gave me no time to prepare for that. It's instantaneous, but okay. Alright, let's flip to ice. Wait, what? Oh, I'm such an idiot. I forgot the Rebirth Flame Rebirth stuff. That's kind of my bad. Since it's also healing me, but the only problem is obviously I'm going to lose Phoenix, and I'll lose the ability to heal oh so nicely. But that's the way it's got to be. Just love when you're not affected by moves at all. It's funny. It's like having a cheat on or something. Come on, we were right there.
Must never run like a chocobo.
Gotta commit, dude. Okay, committed to fire. Well, ice, sorry. Ooh. Should still be fine. At least one part of it should heal us, no? Why did that happen? Why is that so much damage? What's happening? So even the first round, it wasn't a gimme. I think we have to play it like I said before, where you basically leave this guy.
I'm still kicking.
Yeah, nice. Fair play, man. Okay, I give up here. It's already been a long and intense session of trying to beat some brutal enemies. But if that's already the first one, then we're in for some trouble. Obviously, that's literally round 1 of 5, so we'll see. But for now, I'm going to save, and I will see you guys for the next session where I will hopefully try to get to the legendary ones if I can. Now, to start this off, the next episodes that you're going to see for a while are going to be voiceover / post-commentary stuff. The reason for this is twofold. One is because I was literally like running out of content because the brutal challenges are taking so long for me to do, and I'm trying to maintain uploading like every day from Monday to Friday. And basically I really needed to get a recording session in, and the temperatures were just so high that I just didn't want to kind of do like proper commentary recording, because when I do that I have to close up all of the doors, all of the windows, and the room just becomes incredibly hot. And for this one especially, I was just like, you know what, I need to just keep all of my doors and my windows open while I record, because this session is going to take a long time, it's going to be frustrating, I'm going to get heated, and it's just going to be a horrible combination. So that was one reason. And the second that I've already kind of alluded to is I genuinely just didn't know if I'd be able to make any progress and how things were going to go for this one. And so I wanted to make sure I cleared what I wanted to clear first, and then at least I can kind of come back and just talk about it while you're watching the relevant episode. So that's what we're going to do. Up until this point, it has been quite the struggle. They are called the brutal challenges for a reason, and so, you know, it's not a surprise that it has been as difficult as it has been. And as I've been saying all along, I do think the game has generally steered you in a way where if you truly want to maximize your chances of success in the brutal / legendary challenges, realistically, I think you need to do a New Game Plus in hard mode, get your party level up to 10, get your like individual manuscripts and your weapon levels up higher so that you can unlock like better options for your weapons, and of course get your transmuting level higher so that you can get all of the best accessories and equipment possible. When you're at like the hardest level of difficulty in this game, obviously even giving yourself like a 5 to 10% better chance is going to make a big difference. And so I've basically refused to do all of that. And that's like a personal decision, because I've just dedicated so much time to this game that I've generally not been interested in what they want to do in terms of making me do a lot of the game again, especially like all of the high score minigame things that they want to get dark matters, all of that stuff. I would personally rather grind a battle for 10 hours than to replay a lot of the game in New Game Plus, or to grind out mini games and all of that stuff. Now, everyone's preferences are different when it comes to these things, but I'd rather just spend my time fighting. For me, I'm just more interested in the fight, getting better at the fights, figuring out and experiencing the thrill of victory. So that's what I've generally been doing so far, and I've made good progress. It's been a slog. The brutal challenges are very tough. If you're doing them completely blind, and you're doing them without some of the like most helpful accessories you can have, like for example the Genji, it's gonna give you a hard time. And the structure that we have with 10 rounds, basically the timer that the game gives you doesn't seem to be accurate. I think maybe the timer stops when you go into like when you press X and you're actually selecting moves. It's the hardest ones, again, blind run, where you're not completely optimized to try and nuke out every single round. It's like anywhere from 30 to 60, 70 minutes to clear out all of the rounds. And so that means that if you fail at like 7, 8, or 9, and let's say you need 5 attempts, it's going to start to rack up really fast and you're going to get really annoyed and really tired. Now, I haven't hit that stage, thankfully. I've been getting through well enough to not have it be incredibly frustrating. Obviously, there's been one that was very difficult, the one with like the adamantoids and the tomberry and stuff at the end. That one definitely took me, I think, probably 2-3 hours all in all to get through. But we have made it, and so far I've been doing my best to sort of avoid the hardcore frustration that these challenges can bring. And so what we've done, I got to the final brutal challenge, and that one is truly, truly brutal. It's absolutely horrendous. It's what we did on Gilgamesh Island, but this time in hard mode. So like, it's, even though I was playing on dynamic difficulty when I did it in the story, the hard mode is more difficult, and so we have to face a more difficult variation of what we faced on Gilgamesh Island, but we're doing them all back to back with obviously no breathing in between, and if you fail at any point you've got to restart everything. And so this is a pure recipe for disaster and incredible frustration and pain. So I knew this going in, and what I wanted to do for this session, because I'd taken I think 2 or 3 weeks off from recording, I went on holiday, I was focusing in on a few more other projects that I was working on. I had a little bit of energy here, and I thought, let me give one like real go here to the brutal challenge, see if I can at least get past the first couple of rounds or something like that, and then depending on how far I get, I'm going to call it quits here, and then I'm going to try to do the legendary challenges. Because weirdly enough, I had heard that the legendary challenges, they're not necessarily more difficult than the brutal challenges. Even though you kind of have to scroll further to get to them, they're not harder. They're less rounds, so they're quicker, and it's an individual challenge. And I thought that's actually more interesting, and it might be more fun than the brutals. And so I was going to give it a go on this final brutal challenge, because my logic here was that A, if you see at the moment, obviously I have the materia out, I'm just generally having a look at my options, but you will notice that for everyone, I think, other than Yuffie at this point, they only have 3 weapon slots. And these things can be potentially useful. And the reason we only have 3 weapon slots is that our weapon levels are too low. We don't have enough of the manuscripts to level up the weapons. And I thought to myself, if I do some of the legendaries, I will get the ability to level up my weapons a little bit more potentially, and I'd get an extra weapon slot on the characters that I want to use for the brutal. That's one reason, and I also thought it's a change of pace, it's a different kind of style, and I think it's kind of fun to try and figure out like a one optimal strategy for a single character that covers as many bases as possible or goes for like a specific route, and I thought it would be entertaining. So that's generally the story of the session. I began with an attempt against the brutals again, and then I'm going to fail. Spoiler alert, I'm going to fail, but I will show you some of it. Going to fail, and then we're going to move on to some individual challenges and see how far I got with that. So that's generally what to expect. Let's get into it with the brutal, and then we'll talk about it as we go. So I think what we can do, we'll pick it up from the end of Kujata and Phoenix, because this one I think you would have already seen, depending on what I've showed at this point. This one, basically, my general approach here was to try and see if I can use limits to my advantage a lot more, because obviously, as we've seen, limits have the nice ability to basically interrupt whatever's happening, and it gives you a big window of invulnerability. So if an enemy is trying to pull some massive move that would ordinarily kill you, you can potentially cancel it out, you can get like that last minute stagger in, or you can kill an enemy. It's a really powerful tool, obviously. And so what I did here was I gave Tifa a option to basically, whenever her limit gauge is supposed to go up, she will siphon it away to Barret and Yuffie. I believe that should be how it works. And so my plan was to try and get as many limit breaks as I could with Yuffie and Barret during this run to really help me out. So that's one of the major kind of adjustments that I made. And so that was hopefully something that was going to help me through. Again, spoiler alert, it didn't, but I do think it's a good idea potentially, especially if you have the Genji. I think it's a really nice combination, like looking into finding ways to really spam up that limit gauge as much as you can, and then unleashing it for massive damage. I think obviously it could work very well, potentially. Not well enough yet, but when I do come back to this one, we'll see if I can maybe utilize something later on. But yeah, mostly once again, it's the Yuffie show. I decided to stick with Tifa again for now. Aerith, again, I've been juggling between Tifa and Aerith, but I figured Tifa got me through the most recent stuff, and so maybe it's still worth keeping her in for the extra speed. Now, I do of course have a Magnify mana ward / mana wall for these big moves. But this time I had D-Protect and D-Shell, and I wondered if it was going to be too much still, but let's see what happened here. Get that regen on. I think as long as you have some kind of mana wall, like mana wall, whichever one's the relevant one, you should be okay in these. Unless, of course, it's Zantetsuken. There's nothing you can do to reduce the damage from that, I believe. But this one was a fire-based one, so another thing I did, as you would have seen from my attempt so far, is give myself elemental fire to heal any kind of fire damage that we get. Because there's so many rounds, I thought as long as I can at least trivialize even one of the rounds, I felt like that's going to help me a lot. And so at least making this round quicker for me, I thought would be a good idea. But you're seeing, I mean, even now, like, Kujata and Phoenix is still taking me like 5-10 minutes to even get through. I have heard that if you really absolutely find like the best ways to do it, where, for example, I was talking earlier about there's like a method that I saw for the most difficult brutal challenge so far that I couldn't get through, the one with the Tomberry and the Joker at the end. There's a strategy where you can basically get Yuffie to continuously spam Quake, or like Quaker, whatever it's called. You get like Doppelganger, and you get an Arcane Ward, and she does quadruple Quakes, basically, and just demolishes everything. Like, it's an indefinite loop, pretty much, where she doesn't run out of MP, she doesn't run out of ATB, and she just completely spams her way through everything. That is one way you can do it, and I've heard of another one. This is just through conversations I've had with friends. It's not stuff that I've looked up, but obviously at this stage I'm discussing brutal challenges and all that kind of stuff, and they're obviously sharing what they found or what they've done. There's another one in which you can basically get Aerith to spam magic, and this one again is Arcane Ward, and you can use like whichever element benefits you. You can basically again create like an indefinite loop where Yuffie is actually helping to generate ATB for Aerith, and that's something I'll go into if I end up needing it. But basically Aerith just sits there in her Arcane Ward and just spams all of her biggest magic indefinitely, and with that, apparently, even for like, let's say, Kujata and Phoenix, you can literally get through that round in like a minute or something like that. So once you really find or utilize the absolute best, quickest, and potentially spammiest stuff, then again, even for these guys, you can probably get through like first try and really make it much easier. So I do have stuff like that in the back pocket. For now, I'm continuing on with my just like trying to intuitively play through as if it was almost like a story fight, you know, not try to get some kind of, you know, hyper spammy setup going, and just try my best to use all of the tools that I have. So like, you know, using stuff like Rancid Breath when I have the chance and stuff like that. So a lot of those like hyper optimized strats, they're not going to be utilizing things like Rancid Breath or like much in the way of status ailments. They're just going to find a way to indefinitely nuke these guys without taking much damage, and just completely blast them out as quickly as possible. But for now, you're kind of seeing the more kind of natural, not optimized, sloggy way to try and get through. But I think for this particular brutal challenge, I think it's just not going to work. I still haven't tried it again yet since this session. I'm still working on the individual legendary fights, but I have a feeling that no matter what I do, like with this type of play, like what you're seeing here, I don't think it's really gonna be enough to get through, but we'll see. So yeah, for this one, Titan again had that sort of defensive barrier thing, and that protects both him and Bahamut, so obviously I worked on that first, and then I thought to myself, let's try and take down Titan first and leave Bahamut by himself. since we have Mana Wall, at least I know that if we do end up having to deal with the Giga Flare thing, I should be able to survive it as long as I'm prepped.
Need my help, do you?
But another one here obviously is MP. Like we're only, you know, 20-30% of the way through round 2, and already like the MP, like Barret for example, is pretty low. So like having enough MP to last through the entire thing as well is going to be, I think, increasingly difficult. It's just so much going on here. Like as you can see, it's just absolute madness. Constantly something happening. And I think Bahamut's one of those ones he's very difficult to ignore. I think what makes both this fight and what especially the Alexander fight so tough is that it's just so hard to concentrate on one of them because you kind of don't have a choice. You obviously have to take out one of them. But while you're doing that, obviously the other one's just constantly coming in with like aggressive attacks and AoE, and they're hitting for like, you know, 1 to 3, 4,000 depending on what the move is. And so trying to keep up with all of that at the same time while trying to fight in like a normal way, it's very difficult. And I think that's another reason why the more kind of magic spammy things work, because if you get that down and you use it in the right way, you don't really have to focus on too many things at the same time. You just set up your kind of you know, spammy loop, and then all you have to do is just one character will continue to keep spamming that magic over and over. The other character, I think, as I say, I think it was Yuffie in the strat that I'd heard about. She'll just work on continually using her Brumal Form ability, I think it was, to get the ATB going for Aerith. And then probably your third character is only there to just heal if needed, so they're just going to be doing like Magnify Heal or something. And that's the strat, so everyone just has like one job, and they all just do one thing. But as you're seeing here, this is just chaos. I'm just constantly switching through. Everyone's trying to do everything, like they're all trying to heal each other. I got to keep track of, like, you know, status effects and buffs and debuffs and health, and, you know, this guy's particle charging now, so like, do I ignore that? Do I just keep going? It's just a lot to think about. But honestly, I think on an individual level, I still think this is why I generally like the battle system of Remake and Rebirth. Like, there's just so many tools that you have, and I'm trying my best to utilize all of them. So I'm using my buffs, I'm using my debuffs, I'm trying to use elemental affinities, I'm using synergy abilities, I'm using support abilities, I'm using limit breaks. Like, it's a bit of everything. And so that's why on an individual level it's so great, but the structure of the brutal challenges and the way that they've put it together, it's just, as much as I want to say, like, just because, hey guys, it's literally called the brutal challenges, what do you expect? I think still there should be a bit of a limit to that. Like, what they're asking you to do for this particular challenge is just, it's out of line. Like, it's just too much. I think it's just too much. If it ended at Gilgamesh, I could maybe like give it a reprieve. But the fact that even after you're done with Gilgamesh, there's a secret. Ultimately, it's supposed to be more difficult than Gilgamesh, obviously. Boss waiting for you at the end of it, and if you fail, you have to do all of the stages up to Gilgamesh again. It's just bad. I'm sorry, it's just bad. No one's going to convince me that that's just a good design, unfortunately. If anything, honestly, I think I would have preferred to have these combo fights in hard mode just on their own first. Because what we have is, we have, for example, Bahamut Arisen as an individual fight on full might difficulty. But then, in the story on Gilgamesh Island, we have Bahamut plus Titan on normal difficulty. You'd have to replay the game, like you'd have to redo Chapter 12 in hard mode to face them in hard mode, I assume. But having like a Chadley combat simulator version where you have, let's say, the first, like the brutal challenges, let's say they involve just taking on these duos in hard mode, and then after you've done them all individually as a duo fight, then you have like this crazy version. I think that would have been a little bit cooler. But basically, unless you redo Chapter 12 in hard mode, or Chapter 13, whichever one the Gilgamesh Island finale is, unless you redo that chapter in hard mode, you don't get to do these battles like properly individually again. The only way you can experience them is by doing them back to back in this brutal challenge, and I just don't think that's the best idea. But generally, as you're seeing here, obviously at this stage I am trying my best to break and cripple the wings. And in general it's not worked too bad. Like this Bahamut Arisen fight, like it went a little bit better than I expected. This definitely wasn't too bad. This was, I think, the first try that I had against them. Either the first or the second. There definitely wasn't more than 2. So this was a good sign. And MP-wise, other than Barret, I'm holding up pretty well. I think with Barret, I've been using too much MP for stuff like Deprotect. So that's not been ideal. I think in the future I have to kind of forego that stuff. So yeah, you're seeing me still continue to use it here because obviously I want to do my best to try and blast through. But he's down to 23 MP already. And we still have literally 3 full rounds of increasingly more difficult battles. Also, the one advantage of the whole using limit breaks thing is that obviously with the synergy abilities and all that, you get the higher levels of limit breaks too. Now we can't break the damage limit, so I don't think it's super important that we get like the absolute highest ones, but still definitely helpful. But you're seeing another reason why I'm using Tifa here obviously instead of Aerith. I feel like if I am utilizing like limit breaks and stuff, Tifa's ability to obviously boost that stagger gauge is so good. I didn't do a good job here with it, but you should easily be getting to like 220, 250 most of the time when you stagger an enemy. And so obviously that's going to really help to mow them down. So I think ultimately the plan's something along the lines of trying to obviously use Yuffie most of the time to like wear enemies down. Use Barret to tank / build up stagger because of his bonus round ability. And then once we do get the stagger, obviously then Tifa comes into play. Hopefully we have like ATB and we have limit breaks. And Tifa really works the gauge while the rest of them just unload whatever they have. So that's the general idea. That's why I'm saying like this basically plays out like it looks similar to what you'd be doing in just a tough story fight. When you see like those optimized strats, they just don't look like what any player would normally do when they're playing the game. But obviously, in challenges, that's kind of the point. You don't always play the way you'd normally play anyway. So that's why they're definitely good ideas if you need them. But I still prefer to try and do it the normal way first, even if it's the bad way. So Giga Flare is launching. But I'm like, can I finish it before it comes? Do I go attack or defense? I decide to go defense. Basically, I didn't want to use the MP for Yuffie, but I decide to tank it. Turns out it wasn't necessary, so the MP was a waste there. But I will show you guys Alexander and Odin, and this is basically the furthest I got playing quote-unquote the normal way in this particular challenge. So after this fight, I gave up and moved on to the singular ones to not kind of frustrate myself too much. So even in the Gilgamesh side quest fight, this one was really tough. I think I needed like 3 or 4 attempts. It was one of the most thrilling fights of the whole game. I really enjoyed it. But it's punishingly hard. And obviously now that we're on hard mode, it's just going to get even worse. So yeah, I did not fancy my chances here. I think one of the reasons I hate this fight so much is because of Odin's reprisal. Like, as if we don't have enough things to deal with already. The reprisal ability, I just don't know when it's going to trigger. Sometimes it feels like it happens unfairly, Like, I've generally seen it enough where I try my best to use, let's say, a bio or something like that when it's basically loading up for another move. But sometimes he literally cancels out of the move in order to reprise me, and I'm just like, that's just kind of not fair. But it really helps if you can land one, and my move got cancelled there. So you're seeing all of it in action. Like, one is obviously the reprisal, which you'll definitely see moving forward. And two is that Alexander never stops, and he just has AoE all the time. So how you're supposed to focus on Odin, and Odin is a guy that needs your focus, because if you get hit too many times by his moves, he's going to give you the Zantetsuken, and so you have to pay attention. It's just a really nasty combination. So this is one where you need like eyes on the back of your head for the entire fight. It's really horrendous. But I managed to land 2 negative statuses, which is something. And you can see already, like, the poison is working pretty well. Odin doesn't have like a super crazy amount of HP, and I think that's one way in which you can kind of balance things a little. But unfortunately he landed the Helm Cleaver on both of them. I always forget that the synergy abilities don't have the same kind of cancelling out or like invulnerability that the limits do.
You're up. Watch yourself.
But thankfully we did enough. At least basically once you get to this stage you're good. And especially if you have bonus round with Barret, you can really get that stagger relatively fast. But there you saw a reprisal, and then Earth Tremor came, and then suddenly I was like, wait a minute. Just when I got the Sleipnir's Führer thing, everything was going great. And then suddenly we're getting absolutely trashed again.
I'm not going out like this.
So if you're below like 1,500 HP, you could basically die at any given moment. But that was a clutch dodge. And I decided to give it the full Kuraga here. So bonus round, doing my best to just like, by any means, I'm not even trying to dodge anything, but thankfully we did enough, and he's vanished. So this, I think, first vanish is not too bad. Then with Alexander, from my Gilgamesh Island experience, obviously if you can doppelganger, you can ninjutsu, and you can change to lightning, you're going to do a lot of damage here. So I start to get that set up, and I'm saving my limit breaks for the main body of Alexander. But that was huge damage, and unfortunately Barret, I need him to do the revival again. But at least I have 2 limit breaks. So obviously here I'm going to try to get Yuffie going as quickly as I can. And I still need to switch to lightning ninjutsu to do a little more damage here. But I'm trying to leave myself with ATB as well, because obviously another thing is we have Divine Judgment. And right now we have one of those scale thingies, but you can bet that that's going to go up. And so I need to do Isuna. It's just too much. There's something happening all the time, as you can see. Like, it never stops. And so while you're trying to prep and you're trying to do things, you're just getting constantly barraged. But the right arm's almost dead. There you go. But you can see how quickly I'm ripping through the arms now. So once you get this setup going, it's not too bad. What I will try for a future attempt is to try and use resist in advance. I don't know if resist basically stops these scale things from building up. But you can see Barret coming in with an Asuna here. So obviously I planned ahead for this. But again, it's an MP problem. Barret just doesn't have MP. And if he needs to use, I don't know, 3 or 4 Asunas in this fight, then you're already in big trouble. So we don't have time here. I would have loved to have taken out this left arm, but I just ran out of time. I throw in a mana wall just in case it helps. But I was like, can we just, if we could just get this arm taken out, there's a chance we could stop this Divine Judgment, or at least delay it. So I'm just like, is it worth it? I decide to I don't remember exactly what I did here. Yeah, we got enough. Okay.
Are you in trouble?
So now pressure.
Good to go?
Getting that heal in, because Divine Judgment, basically, it always ends up happening. So you're going to see it's still gearing up for one here. But this time, at least, I brought myself a little bit of time to prepare.
It's on you.
And I think this is where those limits really come in handy as well. Like, you can at least delay things for a little bit.
Watch and learn.
So firing off both limits.
Don't let me down.
And we're letting Tifa just continue to build pressure here. So stagger, excellent. Obviously had to use the 2 limits to do it. It would have been nice to have even more limits now, but
Say your prayer.
also a bit limited in terms of ATB. But here, basically, I think in the correct run, like the best way to do it, you probably blast through at this point. You don't let it get back up from the stagger. You've already killed it. But obviously I'm still not optimized or good enough to do that, but we did nice damage. But you can see that's what I mean. Divine Judgment is just inevitable. Like, unless you kill it, it's going to come. So we need to be ready for it.
Here I go. Come on.
But thankfully, I think with only 1 scale, it's not too bad.
Do me proud. All right.
And it cancelled out my Thunderous Banishment there. You saw the timing. That's so annoying. So here it comes on hard mode. Let's see how many it does with 1 scale. That's not too bad. I don't know if the mana wall made a difference there. I don't think so, honestly. And so yes, this guy has returned. And so obviously I have to ignore Alexandra again. And the process begins once more.
I'm your one-stop watering shop.
But he starts off with a very high stagger gauge. I'm not sure why, honestly. I don't really know why that happened, but I'm far from complaining here.
Go forth and
So I'm trying to get ready so that I can get like a nice barrage here, but Barrett's already out of MP, and this is where the beginning of the end basically was.
you're in good hands now.
So I really need to conserve my MP better for future runs.
I got this.
Yep. So just bad timing. Just when I'm about to gain some momentum, things are not going well here. I have to get the stagger anyway just to buy some time. He just doesn't have MP. Everything kind of changed here, because if Yuffie stayed alive, I think she would have filled up her limit gauge on the stagger. She was very close. But now we don't have a choice. Conserving MP with a raise here instead. Yeah, I really would have liked to have done more damage there, but
Thought you never.
so that didn't go too badly. It would have been nice if it vanished after that as well. Unfortunately, it did not. But Yuffie does have another limit break. But you can see the MP, even for Tifa and Yuffie, that are generally more MP efficient. She fell unconscious again. It's just constant damage. You really have to deal with that constant damage. And Yuffie died with that limit break, so I just cannot use that limit break right now. So it was starting to slip away. You can start to see here Punitive Sphere and Shimmering Blade happening at the same time. There's always things happening. And the way that it switches its attacks up there, I thought Tifa was safe. But thankfully I can bring Yuffie back, and we do have 2 limit breaks here. So gonna start again here. I mean, it wasn't even a bad attempt. You're seeing the power of the limit breaks here too. So I don't think I'm a million miles away from, you know, having a deeper run, at least making it to Gilgamesh. So yeah, this thing comes again, but it did damage even when it blasted into it. But we got another stagger. So at this stage, I'm like, we might make this, you know, like we might pull this back. But unfortunately, I'm still a little bit unprepared here. The Punitive Sphere happens exactly where Odin is. So I need to attack there, but I'm taking damage while I attack. It's just a horrible, horrible fight. It really is. but managed to make him vanish the second time. Here we go again. So now I was wondering, do I take the arms out again, or is it low enough HP that I just go for the core body here? I decided to go for the body. So let's see how that went. I mean, I'm close to a limit once again. So I have to restart this whole process because she got KO'd a couple of times. But she can just build up ATB so fast. She does have a limit break again. You can see those limit breaks are coming very fast. And I think that's definitely what I need. So I'm trying to reserve it for after a stagger here. But it's just constant, man. Radiant wave, like earth tremor, this, that, the other. Just too many things happening. So I'm just like, I'm going to fall behind in this fight. So let's just go. At least we can get to another stagger. So right before that, I get a prey in. And another stagger. This is where I really needed to finish this off. I had to finish this off here. There's enough time, I think, for the two-step to actually work. And I thought, if I can do this, if I can kill Alexander here, there's a chance we could finish off Odin. So honestly, I was pretty pleased with this attempt. Now, I made a mistake here, and this is a mistake I made before. I thought to myself, he's just returning now. We could probably get a bio in before he even sets up and actually does anything. But you see, he does this thing, and this effectively kind of cancels out, almost. Ah, he resisted. Sorry, I tell a lie. Watching it back now, I can see that he resisted the bio. That's unlucky, man. That is unlucky. Wow. Again, that was a turning point in the fight. I reckon if he was bioed, things could have changed there. But it doesn't have a lot of HP left. If I could just get off like 1 or 2 limit breaks, I'd have a great chance here. So at this point, I really thought I'd be able to do this. Trying to use some Broomwall form to avoid getting hit because I don't want the Zantetsuken, of course. But that didn't work so well. He's just really piling on the attacks back to back right now. Let's see.
You won't regret this. Just you watch.
Okay. So now, Gjallarhorn's warning happens. Watch this. I try to use bio, and I get the reprisal. So that's what I'm talking about. That's the instant cancel that really messed me up there. And he's just resisting a lot of stuff too. You see the resist text just appearing over and over. So now it's like anything to try and get a Sleipnir's Furor, try and stagger him, anything. But we're just getting hit too much here. And we have Tifa being imprisoned as well. She's got the stop status. So maybe for this one you need a Karmic Cowl, honestly. That could probably help. You really don't need a stop right now. So this is really what, like, the absolute end here. She does have a limit. I was like, ah, Zantetsuken, no. If he just gave me like 10-15 more seconds, Tifa was back as well. I'm trying everything here, but I think once he gets into Zantetsuken, unless you actually stagger him, you won't be able to do it. So yeah, he just didn't give me enough time. So I died. But I think this was a pretty good run. I was generally fairly happy with this effort. But there you go. There's just nothing. Obviously, none of these guys have reprieve as well. That's the one area where Aerith does benefit. She has a reprieve. But yeah, there you go. So 19, I think, was closer to half an hour, 40 minutes real time. But that was my kind of final attempt against these guys before I decided to focus on the individual ones. So I'll end this episode here. You will not see that battle again until a few more episodes where I decide to come back to it and try to finish it once and for all. So I'll see you guys for the individual challenges now.